Hey, this is Jay. This is a quick tutorial for an image combiner using Nano Banana and n8n. So Nano Banana is still kind of the hot model right now, and for good reason. Technically, it is the Gemini 2.5 Flash image model done by Google, and it is a state-of-the-art image model for sure because it can do things like this, be able to take three different images and combine these images into one realistic-looking result here, which is pretty cool. So we're going to build something that does this, and it's pretty straightforward, a little bit hacky, as you can see, but it'll get the job done. So the goal is to take those three images, combine them into one image, and get the result out. And right now, I'm just uploading it back to Google Drive. So let's go ahead and get started real quick. I'm just using a form submit. So we're gonna fill out our form. Say please combine the hat, person, and new background. And probably don't even need that, to be honest. It probably will figure it out if you just send in these images. But I've got my three images. I've got a hat, got a profile picture, and a really low resolution beach background. So we're going to submit that. And so I've just created that simple form. And then that ends up giving us the three binary data that we need for each image. So n8n is absolutely horrible at dealing with multi-binary sets. So I've spent a long time trying to figure out how to dynamically handle this, and because this situation right here pains me so much. But working with the form, this best I could do. I think someone else from my community actually mentioned maybe I could just upload the images to Google Drive or something else instead first, and there's probably other ways to deal with the binary first before trying to do this. But anyway, this will get the job done. So we are taking each individual image through its own path to say, okay, grab images 0. So we're gonna grab this binary specifically. And then grab the MIME type for it, because we want to make sure that we have keep track of what kind of image it is, because I actually use two different images. So this is a PNG for the first one and then JPEGs for the other two. So we need to make sure we keep that matched up with the binary or the base64 data that we're creating. So this is going to turn the binary data into base64 and then add the matching MIME type. We're going to do that 3 different paths. So then we merge them all back into one path. So I'm just going to go ahead and run that. That should give us all with 3 items back. Then after that, I'm just going to kind of reshape the data a little bit to be what the Gemini API is expecting. So it needs the inline data. So we're going to say MIME type and data, which I was just talking about. So we maintain that there. And then we aggregate those together afterwards. So reshape those objects a little bit more to be what we want. And then we aggregate based on that. And then that's good to go. Cool. So we have an array of those objects. And then we get to the API for Gemini 2.5 Flash. So unfortunately, I started with trying to use OpenRouter because this model is available on OpenRouter. But the problem is that the context is only 32,000. And when you do 3 different images, and depending on the size of the image, even one of those is super small, the token context for all 3 of these images makes this payload way over. It made it 140,000. So this payload, unfortunately, is going to be way too big for this. So OpenRouter might not be the option here. My last Nano Banana workflow, when it's just one image, you could definitely just use OpenRouter to connect to the Gemini 2.5 Flash preview image instead. But unfortunately, I am using the HTTP request node to call the Gemini API directly, which means that you would have to set up a Google client to be able to get your Google API. So I actually do have another video on helping to set up a Google client if you want to check that out. But unfortunately, can't make that a little bit more straightforward right now. We're just going to have to use the API directly. And I can't provide an API key, unfortunately. I don't have that. Can't quite provide that many resources yet. So this one's going to be disabled by the time I get there. You will need to get your own API key. But the payload is pretty straightforward, really. It's kind of the same as last time. So it just has contents and it's got parts. And then the part will be the text prompt that we sent in, which again is probably actually optional. And then I've taken the array of binary datas or base64 datas now. And provided those in the payload. And I'll get back to that eventually, and I'll have the whole workflow in the link below. But if we do that, we're sending off the entire payload off to Gemini Preview with the instruction that I provided originally, which said, just please combine them, which I think it would figure out, but it's smart enough that it would have the context of this is a hat goes on person goes on background. So there we go. Cool. So it's processed that, said, here you go, and provided a new base64 data. So if we go here, it's still thinking it's executing, even though it's done. We got what we wanted. We're good. And n8n's been a little laggy lately. All right, cool. Now, then we convert the base64 into an actual image. So let's take a look at the result real quick. So I should be there we go. Wearing my new hat on the beach. Looks a little low on my head, but it'll work. That's not bad actually. That hat looks pretty good for what I gave it. So not a bad result. So last part here is just to upload it to Google Drive, but you can send it wherever you want. So go ahead and execute that. So we're going to upload that new image off to Google Drive, and hopefully it won't take too long. There we go. All right, cool. So that's the whole workflow for this image combiner. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of rebuild it just to walk through it a little bit more in case you want to. Otherwise, I will have the link for the entire workflow down below, so you can just check that out and skip the rest of the explanation. But I'm going to create a new workflow just kind of walk through this process. Let's do it in n8n form. And again, the form is just kind of nice because it's like an easy visual way to get started and an easy way to get 3 images into the workflow directly. Again, you could pull them from wherever though. If you want to just pull them originally from Google Drive, that's also an option. So in this case, we're saying this is an image combiner form. You could have a description here if you wanted, and then I'm just adding a text. So like, what's the instruction? And then we need one more field. We need images. So I'm going to say images, and images will be an element type of file. And you could just make sure that they are file images. So we're going to say .jpeg without the E, .png, and .gif. Maybe it's a good place to start. So now if we execute that, I should be able to please combine the hat, person, and new background. So now I choose my files and upload my images. And it just kind of gives you an easy way to get all that stuff in one place. So go ahead and submit. And that gives us the binary data that I was talking about. So then, this is where it gets a little weird because the first thing we want to do is extract the binary data into base 64. So I'm going to do that. So if you just type base 64, this will actually limit it pretty quickly to you. So we're going to do extract from file and convert binary to JSON. So there's actually no mention of it, until the bottom. So we're actually moving file to base 64 string. And so this is where it's normally defaulting to data, but since there's multiple, we're just going to grab the first one and say image is 0. One other thing we're going to do here is keep source JSON. So I just want to keep what that file type is. So we're going to go ahead and execute that. I guess we don't have to because I think the MIME type is already in the instruction. So you could actually skip that if you wanted, and just get the binary. So that gives us the binary, and it kind of gets lost. That's where I think, again, this is n8n being weird and how it handles binaries. So the other 2 binaries kind of like carry over, and this one was converted, but you don't see it. Like it's in the schema instead. So I don't know. That's n8n's got some work to do on binary handling, I guess. It's probably a pretty complicated process, so I don't blame them. But all we're going to do now is copy this. So I'm going to create a new node for extract file and reconnect another one so that we can do images 1. So we're going to grab this next image and then convert that into a base 64. And then we're going to do it one more time. So connect that node to this one down here. And then this will be images 2. And then convert that, and we're good to go. So cool. So we've got all 3 of those. Then similar thing, like I said, I'm going to kind of just create an edit fields set just to create the object going forward, like the format that we're going to want. So go ahead and execute previous node. And then in the schema, that gives us our data. So we can just say, I'm just going to keep calling it data. So data string. But I do want to bring forward the other value. So this is another string, but I want the image is 0 MIME type because I know for sure that we're on that 0 path. So we can be explicit about that 0. And so actually I want to bring that over here. So I want this image's MIME type to be here. So we get the value of the image's MIME type, and I'm just going to call it MIME type because that's what Gemini is going to expect later when we call it. But that's pretty much it for this one. So then if we do that, we should get a nice little payload. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing for this one and this one. So we connect these up. Now, we do have to adjust this. So in this case, we know that this one is on the 1 path. So I'm on the middle. And I know that this is images 1. So I want to make sure that the MIME types are the same. So I'm going to do execute previous. I know that we created binary data out of images 1. And so I just want to make sure that we're also grabbing images 1's MIME type. So that's what's happening here. And then same down here, we're going to do the same thing for images 2. So let's update that last node. It's all good. And so instead of 0, it's going to be 2. And I'm not going to run it because it's all the same. So now I'm going to bring these all back together into one. So here we're just going to do a merge. So we're going to merge those nodes back together and change the number of inputs from 2 to 3. And then we can connect, I'm going to, just so it looks a little more visually, input, the top one is input 1, input 2, and then input 3. Cool. So if we do that, that should give us our 3 items now, combining all of those together. All right. And we have 3 items. And now, let's see, then I just needed to reformat the JSON. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Basically, I just wanted to put it into an object. So it's a JSON object with a key of inline data. And then that has the containing data of MIME, another object with values of MIME type and data. So I'm just going to copy that structure back over here. And we're going to do an edit JSON, or edit fields rather, edit fields. And do a custom JSON instead. So JSON. Oop, let's try that again. All right, there we go. And so all that's happening here is that, so all you can see the rest of this text is basically static, but I am grabbing the MIME type. And again, the MIME type is coming from here. So just dragging that into here, and same with the data. So the data is just coming from this other data from the merge. So all that's doing is reformatting the data. And if you will notice, this is actually going to operate 3 times because there are 3 items. So it's going to take each one of those payloads and just restructure them to look like this instead. So if we do that, we should get 3 items just with now inside of a payload like that. Although I'm not sure why I ended up doing 2 instead of 3. It's a little weird. But yeah, so then once that's done, then I think because it needs to run the whole thing again. So I'll probably restart it. And then we're going to aggregate all those objects into one. So since we have 3, should have 3 items, we're going to do that. So instead, we're going to take inline data and create an entire array in all items to a single list. We'll call that inline data. So if we do that, this one's only going to have 2, but it should have 3. So if we go ahead and I'll go ahead and save this and reload it, it should work out a little bit better. All right, cool. So just going to restart this real quick. Going to resubmit our images. So please combine the hat person and new background and re-add the images. One up. And we should get our payload. Cool. And then let's continue to where we were. So if I do execute step, should go through all 3, and then we should get our 3 items. Cool. All right, so now we're back to 3 items. And then this last part then is the HTTP request node. So I'm going to copy this over, but I'll kind of walk through it. So HTTP request, like I said, we're going to call Google directly. So we're doing an HTTP request. We're doing a post, and then I'm going to grab the URL from that. So it's kind of a long one here, and you don't really have to change it if you don't want to. It should work as is, but it's basically generative-language.googleapis.com/v1beta/models/Gemini 2.5-flash-image-preview : generate content. So that's all we're doing here. Just paste that in. That doesn't need to change. And then we are sending in headers. So go ahead and click send headers. I think we just need content type JSON. So we're going to do content type for that first header. Content type is the name. So header param name, content type, value, application JSON. Just telling it that's the payload that's coming in. And then we're going to add one more parameter. So this is where you would put your API key here. Unfortunately, mine will not work. You'll have to get your own. So x-goog-api-key, and you get that from a Google client. So then you would put in your API key. And I think there's actually a way to put variables like that in n8n, so I don't have to expose these publicly. But yeah, we'll get to that one later. Unfortunately, you'll have to find your own. And then for JSON, we're going to do JSON body, and that's correct. So at that point, you'd have your header parameters filled out. Then you would enable send body. JSON body is what we want, but we are going to specify using JSON rather than the fields explicitly, just because we want to kind of shape things out a little bit. And so you could potentially, but there's a little bit of nesting here. So again, I will provide this whole thing, so you can just kind of copy paste it. But basically, we're creating a JSON object, so that has contents. Contents is an array. Inside of the array, there's an array of parts. So there's inside of that, then we have inside of the parts array, we have text. And so the text is actually going to come from the beginning. So on the form submit, so I have instruction rather than instructions. So just match that to whatever you put there. So that text is the instruction. Cool, that's good. And then this is where I kind of hacked this a little bit. So we created the aggregate array here. So that's this here. So this is the 3 inline datas that we needed, and they have MIME type and data. So that's what this is. I just dragged that in here. So we need first the text part, and now we need the inline data part. And so I've kind of already structured it that way by the way that I named it. So in this case, what we can do is grab the inline data and just drop it in here. And then I would say to JSON string. So a little bit of JavaScript magic. And what's happening with that, let's go ahead and show this, is that it's dropping in the full array. And so there's a couple different ways you could do this. You could actually inject this first part into this array instead and use that as a whole. So a couple different ways you can go about it. But all I'm going to do is that we just need to get rid of the square brackets around this array. So I'm just going to do replace left square bracket with nothing, and dot replace right square bracket, comma, with nothing. So just empty string. And then that gives us a pure array of inline data objects. And so they have MIME type and data, and the data just being the base64 string. And then at some point through here, it finally ends. This is also why OpenRouter doesn't work, because this becomes way too large to actually use. But trust me that like this is the full thing. It's just turned this array of base64 strings into an actual string. And so that's it. So then that should give us our payload. And then that is now executable. So we can send that off to Gemini. So if I go ahead and execute that, and again, I'll have the whole thing, and I can probably show at least the static format of the content in maybe in the description or whatever in a text file. Just kind of show you the structure of like what that request looks like. But there we go, all good to go. So we came back with a base64 string, and so much like we did at the beginning here, this was extract. So move the file to base64. We're going to do the opposite. So instead of extract from file, we're going to convert to file. So if you just type in base64, you only get the 2 options. So we're going to convert to file. And then it's always the option down here at the bottom is move base64 string to file, which is what Google just provided us after making that new image. So if I drag the data in there, then we should be good to go. Just go ahead and execute, and it should turn that base64 string back into an actual image file. And if you look, it is actually called file.png. File type is actually an image. So if we go ahead and view, you can see the result. There we go. I'm wearing my hat again on a super low resolution beach. So we're all good to go on that. And then now you've got that image, and it's actually an image file. So you can do whatever you want with it. So in this case, like I was just uploading it to Google Drive, but you can upload it to whatever, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you want to send it. So I'm going to upload file. And in this case, like I said, just because if you're running it over and over, I'm going to call it something like Nano Banana, or maybe something else, maybe image combiner. And then I was doing a little magic here of JavaScript just to kind of give it a more dynamic name. So let's say, let's do now. Yeah, there we go. So it kind of will suggest now, and say you could do dot format. By default, it's going to give you just the date. I was adding more to that, so I was going to say like I don't think you could do colons, but I don't think so for file naming. So I was just going to do like hour, minute, and second, just to keep it a little more original. So there we go. Then that's all you should need. And again, so we're back to the default n8n data. So there's nothing you really need to change here because it provided data by default. So unless you change that when you did your base conversion, you should be good to go. So this will automatically convert upload the file, and you can put it to, wherever you want in Google Drive. So go ahead and execute step. Should get the image file uploaded to Google Drive, which looks successful. And if I open up Google Drive, image combiner from today, and there it is. Wow, what a profile pic upgrade. All right, so that's it. So that is our image combiner, fully functional, at least from having a form and not having to deal with pulling in the images from anywhere else. But hopefully that's helpful. But kind of gives you just at least a place to start, kind of an idea of how to send in multiple images to n8n, and then also send them into Gemini. But lots of flexibility, lots of options to customize. But yeah, I will have the entire workflow in a link below. So definitely let me know if you run into any issues, if there's any questions or anything else that you would like to see. I'm going to continue to make more videos like this. So happy to see your comments and suggestions. So yeah, in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I have been streaming a lot more. So if you want to check out the live stream, I've been doing some builds like this and just talking about tech and AI in general. So you want to stop by and do that, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.